Okay. Unless and until if you finish the first video, the concept video that I've put up, don't come to this chapter. Once you've completed that, we are going to come to assessment of partnership form. There are only two or three things that is different from whatever we have already studied there. First thing is interest on capital, because back then there was no concept of interest on capital at all. Or even if there was interest on capital, completely it was inadmissible and it was added back to net profit. Here, what happens in a partnership firm, 12% of such interest on capital is allowable. If there is any amount paid in excess of 12%, that will be taxable. Say, for example, if they're telling 30,000 is the interest paid, and this comes up to 15% of your total interest. Ideally, how much is allowable now? 12% is allowable. So what do I do? 3% is going to be excess amount. I'm going to do a cross multiplication, 30,000 into 3% divided by 15%. That's going to give me 6,000 rupees. This 6,000 rupees will become my inadmissible expense. And only that 6,000 rupees is supposed to be added back to your net profit. If they have directly given you interest on capital in excess of the amount to be paid, you'll directly put that amount. If they have given you percentages, this is how you do it. You will find out how much is the excess. Say if it is 15% correct, then you will be doing 3%. 3% is in excess of 12%. If they've given you 20%, you will do 8% here. Or if they've given you 16%, you will do 4% here. That is how it works. Well, if that is clear, we'll go forward. The second concept that you're supposed to learn with respect to assessment of partnership form is remuneration to partners. Now, back then, whatever salary was paid to proprietor was completely disallowed. Now, what will happen in the beginning? You will first add up all the salary or remuneration paid to the partners. Once you do that, you're going to allow certain amount. To see what is the amount that you're going to allow later, you're going to do this calculation. What does this calculation say? Out of my book profit, first 3 lakh, I'm going to take it separately. For that first 3 lakh rupees, I'm going to see 90% of that 3 lakh rupees or 1,50,000, whichever is higher. That I'm going to consider as A. Next one, I'm going to, whatever is the amount in excess of 3 lakh rupees, I'm going to take 60% of amount. That will be considered as B. This A plus B is supposed to be compared with C. What is this C? C is actual remuneration that is paid. Actual remuneration could be either salary or commission or bonus or any such thing paid to the partners only. So now for an example, let me assume that my book profit is say around 10 lakh rupees. Now what will happen? For the first 3 lakh rupees, I'm going to take 90% or 1,50,000, whichever is higher. So here what will happen? Out of 10 lakh rupees, 3 lakh rupees I'm going to take separately. Anyways, 90% of that 3 lakh rupees is going to come to 2,70,000. That is anyways in excess of 1,50,000. So I'm going to consider 2,70,000 as A. Greater than 3 lakh rupees, I have out of 10 lakh, I've already taken 3 lakh in A. So the remaining 7 lakh I'm going to consider here. So what do I do here? 7 lakh rupees into 60% I'm going to do. So now A plus B is going to be 2,70,000 plus 4,62,000. That means 6,90,000 would be the salary, would be the book profit wala calculation that I'll be comparing with the actual remuneration paid. For our example, let us assume that my actual remuneration paid is around 6 lakh rupees. Now, what will happen here? I'm going to consider 6 lakh as the amount of actual remuneration paid. Out of this, I'm going to consider whichever is lower. That lower amount will be considered as allowable remuneration. So the allowable remuneration is going to be out of these two, whichever is lower. In my equation, this is going to be 6 lakh. So this much can be allowed. This will be reduced from your profit. Now, if at all, if I want to imagine my book profit to be just 1 lakh rupees, now what will happen? 90% of such 1 lakh rupees is going to be 90,000. That 90,000 or 1,50,000, whichever is higher, is supposed to be considered. So I'm going to do it separately here. let it be 10 lakh rupees, this will be 1 lakh rupees. So if this is 1 lakh rupees, the amount that I'm supposed to take here will become 90,000 or 1,50,000, whichever is higher. So I'm going to consider 1,50,000. There is no amount that is greater than 3 lakhs, so this will become nil. Imagine if my actual remuneration paid was still 6 lakh rupees. I'm going to consider 1,50,000 A plus B, 1,50,000 or 6 lakh. So out of these two, whichever is lower is to be considered as allowable remuneration. So it is going to be 1,50,000. I hope this concept is clear now. With this concept, let us move to a question. Here, the question is telling Priyanka and Shruti are partners. Interest on capital that they're paying is 20%. They've given the profit and loss account for the year ended. Now, any question that they have given, what you're going to do, you're going to follow the same format that we have done in the last sum as well. Keeping that last sum ka format in mind, what am I going to do? First, net profit I'm going to take. The net profit is 2,50,000. Once I take my net profit, I'll be adding up all the inadmissible expenses. Now, general expense, wait a second. Let me call this as other expense. Okay. Other expense, you will just consider it as business expense, not going to do anything right now. Interest on capital, the amount that I have paid is 1 lakh rupees. They're telling interest on capital is given at the rate of 20%. How much is allowable here? 12% is allowable. So what will I do now? I'm going to just take 12% into consideration. The remaining 8% will become inadmissible. How do I calculate that? Let me show you. Interest on capital. Only the excess amount I'm going to take here. Out of 1 lakh rupees of interest on capital paid, 8% is going to be my excess amount. So I'm going to do 8%. That will be divided by 20%. That means my total interest. If I do this, whatever value I get, that I'm going to write here as well. I'm just going to do the same calculation that I've already done into 8 divided by 20. So 40,000 is my excess amount. Only this excess amount will be added back. After this, there is salary to partners. I'm going to take that amount as well. Salary to partners. How much is the amount? Amount is rupees 10 lakh. Let me directly take it from here. Okay, 10 lakh is done. Then I don't have any other item in my debit side. Great. In my credit side, there is interest received from debtors for late payment. This is going to be a business income itself. So I'm not going to disturb it. Interest on government securities. This is non-business income. So I'm going to take it here. Interest on government securities. So that amounts to rupees 6,50,000. Great. After this, it says firm is eligible for 100% deduction under section 80 highway. With regards to this, we're going to see a little later. Other than that, we'll see the remaining things. Depreciation as per IT rules is 35,500 rupees. That is one of the admissible expenses which they've not taken P&L account. So I'm going to take it here. Depreciation amounts to 35,500 rupees. Other expenses to the extent of 62,500 is not deductible. Out of 1,25,000, 62,500 is not deductible. So what will I do? That will become inadmissible. I'm going to add it here. Other expense, only the inadmissible amount is supposed to be added here. That means 62,500 is going to be added here. Now, once all this is done, I'm going to take the totals out. This is my total. You are also see my total. Here, this will be my total. I'm yet to take this 100% reduction under section 80IB, which I will do a little later. I'm going to show it now. Now, once I do all this, whatever I get here is called as book profit. What is this book profit? That is equal to your net profit plus inadmissible expenses minus non-business income minus admissible expense. So this is my book profit. Once I get my book profit, I'm going to reduce allowable remuneration. Now, how do I calculate my allowable remuneration? I'm supposed to compare A plus B with C. What is my A plus B? Up out of my 6,67,000 of book profit, up to 3 lakh, it is going to be 90% of such amount. Sorry, up to 3 lakh. That means 2,70,000. Correct? Then greater than 3 lakh. But greater than 3 lakh, what will I do? 6,67,000 is my total book profit minus 3 lakh rupees. For that minus 3 lakh rupees, whatever amount I get, I'm going to do 60%. This is the formula that's already given. Now, once I do this, whatever value I get, the total I get here, this is going to be A and B. This is A and this is B. The total here, I'm going to take sum 4,90,000. And in my question, they've already given the salary to partners as rupees 10 lakh rupees. So this amount I'm directly going to take from here. So my allowable remuneration is going to be out of these two, whichever is lower. That means in my equation, it is 4,90,200 rupees. Once you arrive at this figure, what I'm going to do from here on is, after I reduce this, whatever I get here is called as PGBP income. How much is my PGBP income now? From book profit, I'm going to reduce my allowable remuneration. This will become my PGBP income. I hope I've done everything correctly. Okay, I think I've done everything correctly here. Okay then. Now, once I get my PGBP income, what do I do? Till this, you're going to do it in your normal calculations. These many things will be your main calculation, Alt HB. After this, whatever you're going to do, you'll be doing in working note. This also will be forming part of your working note. Working. Once this is done, what do? I'll have to calculate gross total income, GTI. How do I calculate my GTI? GTI calculation is going to be salary, house property, PGBP, then capital gain, then other stuffs. Now, salary amount is 0, house property is 0, PGBP they have already given here 1,76,000. We have calculated it. Capital gain in this question is 0. Other source that we have already seen here is 6,50,000. Now, this will become my GTI is equal to GTI is gross total income is equal to sum. Okay, from this GTI, what do? Less deductions. Now, once I have to reduce the deductions, where will I see in the additional informations, they have already told that 100% amount is under section 80 IB is given as deduction. What is this 100% deduction they give? Section 80 IB says for the certain kind of business that they do, PGBP income, whatever you get, that amount will be given as complete deduction. So what will happen here? My deduction will be this 1,76,000. Wait a second. Now, once I reduce this deduction, whatever amount I get, that will be called as my total income is equal to 8,26,000 minus 1,76,000, 76,800. Now, 6,50,000 is my total income. I'm supposed to, this is your calculation of total income. After this, what do? After this, I'm going to compute calculation of tax. To calculate tax, what will I do? I'll see what heads of income are there. Say, for example, if there is any capital gain, you're going to do directly 20% or 15%, as whatever the case may be. Other than that, whatever income is there for that, because this is a partnership firm, I'll be doing 30% tax directly. Now, tax on income. What do I do? 6,50,000 into 30% is the direct tax that I'm going to calculate. Tax on income I've already done. Add health and education cess at the rate 4%. So this will be this into 4%. This will become total tax. Total tax is going to be 1,95,000 plus 7,800. This is my total tax as per my normal calculations. Calculation of tax, normal. Okay, once I do this normal, when do I calculate this normal as well as AMT? There is something called as alternative minimum tax. When will this AMT section be applicable? It will be applicable only if I've taken deduction under section 80IB. Now, in my equation, I've taken deduction under section 80IB, but this deduction will be applicable if I've taken, is this AMT ka calculation is applicable if I've taken deductions under many sections. There are some sections called as 80IB, IC, 80RRB, 80Q, QQC or something like that. There are a lot of different sections that is given in chapter number 3. I hope you all have textbooks. I hope at least you'll be knowing the name of such deductions. Once you know that name of deductions that is given in chapter 3, you'll be through with this concept. Now, any of that section applies, I'm going to get 100% deduction on whatever is my PGBP income. Once I get this 100% deduction here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to calculate my AMT as well. How do I calculate my AMT? For my total income plus PGBP income also, I'm going to add back. That means 6,50,000 of normal, here 6,50,000 of total income I have. For that, I'm going to add the deduction that I've already given before. That means 1,76,800 I've already added back. This will become my total income for the sake of AMT. So what will I do here? For this, if I have to calculate tax on income, on this 8,26,800, I'm going to calculate 18.5%. This 18.5% is always common. Now, on this 18.5%, let me write it here at the rate of 18.5, 18.5%. Now, once you do this, I'm going to add up health and education cess. That is going to be this into 4%. Once I do these things, I'm going to add up this as well as this. Once I do all these things, whichever is higher out of normal taxation or AMT ka taxation, that will be the amount that you are supposed to pay to government. Total, see, out of this 2,02,800 or 1,59,000 in this question, out of this, whichever is higher is supposed to be paid to the government. So in my question, let me just write it here, whichever is higher. That means in my question, 2,02,800 rupees is the tax amount that I'm supposed to pay to the government. This is how you calculate your total tax. We have done everything in this question. We have covered everything. Say in your exam, if they've asked you just to find out the book profit, your answer is going to end here. If they've asked you to find out what is PGBP income, then you're going to do this Ramayana of calculating allowable remuneration, then you'll find out PGBP. If they've asked you to find out what is your gross total income, your answer is going to end here, 8,26,800 place. If they've asked you to find out total income, you're going to do till 6,50,000. If they've asked you to find out how much is the total tax payable, then you're going to do till here. These are the, I've given you all the possibilities with respect to this chapter. If they're gonna give a 12 marks question, they're supposed to give somewhere from here only. In my first concept video, we have already discussed about what are the kind of items that we're supposed to add and minus. I've just picked out the topic which is most relevant for partnership firms. That means your interest on capital and salary to partners. Once I know this, as well as how do I calculate this allowable remuneration part? This allowable remuneration and its complete calculation. If you know this much, as well as the concept of AMT and when it will be applicable, I think you should be through with this chapter. Probably once you listen to this video, go and see one or two sums with respect to this chapter. I think you should be able to crack this chapter in the exam. You will be getting a 12 marks question from this chapter. Okay. I'll try to make one more video on assessment of companies as well. Done.